Hello. Stay tuned for Voice of Rio when we talk to some of our new faculty members.
And welcome to another episode of Voice of Rio Grande. I'm your host, Dr. Donna Mitchell, along with my co-host, Dr. Heather Duda. Heather, it's exciting to be at Rio today.
It is.
There's so much activity, students and faculty and everybody bustling about.
I always love it. This time of year, just season-wise, we're coming to winter, but academic season-wise, we are spring. We are just getting started.
Fresh beginning for many new students.
Yes, yeah. And there were a lot of great events as the students moved in this year for Welcome Week and Weekend, and so our students got used to campus life and got to meet each other, so that sort of pre-semester part of the school year is always a great opportunity for students who are both residential and commuter, for those who wanted to come in for that.
And I got to meet some students and really enjoyed spending time talking to the students, talking about their majors, what their plans are, and it will be fun to watch these students grow and mature as they're here for 2 or 4 years, or maybe even longer if they go back for a master's in education, who knows.
And I always like seeing them now when they're just starting their careers and then watching them walk across the stage as their name's called to graduate.
Right. Well, we're also fortunate to have 2 new faculty members with us today, although we have hired 5, 6 new faculty members total. So we were fortunate enough to have 2 who are willing to come today, and perhaps we'll have time to talk to others later in the semester. So our first guest is Heath Good. Welcome, Heath.
Welcome.
Thanks.
And Heath, you teach computer science, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your background.
Well, if we want to go clear back, no, I've been working with computer science ever since I accidentally formatted my family's hard drive when I was 6, back using DOS commands to do so. So yeah, so technically you could count that, I guess. But then I've always been into it in junior high, assisting in the computer lab, and then in high school working with the tech coordinator, like actually going out and fixing things and doing stuff, both with the coordinator and also occasionally he would let us do stuff on our own. But then I continued on at the help desk at OUC, and worked with anywhere from students to staff to administrators, assisting them with their tech needs, and eventually that turned into an opportunity to teach after I graduated with my bachelor's. And then so I taught up at OUC for a while. Then I wanted to try out a few different things with education. So I worked at a private school dealing with their technology, but also teaching. Random fact, I have taught a cooking class.
Wow.
So I would go from teaching a technology-related class to teaching cooking, back to back, and it was a fun experience. But anyway, so I thought I'd after that try the corporate world, learned many new things, and got to experience a lot of new technologies that we don't quite have down in Southern Ohio. But I'm able to bring those back, and I've helped out for many years. I've worked with business clients with their IT needs, and so I was able to come back from the corporate world and help branch out my business clients with new technologies that they've never had before. And long story short, now I'm here teaching computer science courses 4 days a week. So
we're happy that you've become part of the Rio family. Tell us about your education. Where did you get your degrees?
I started off at the Chillicothe branch of OU, so Ohio University Chillicothe, and then spent my time there getting my bachelor's, and then doing my grad program, my master's, through an online program through Athens, Ohio University Athens. So, I was encouraged to, as I was teaching at OUC, to pursue my master's, and I I did so, and that's been beyond teaching there, but also in many of my different things I've done in life. It's been very beneficial because any computer experience is transferable to another life in technology. So yes, it's definitely been very beneficial.
Wonderful.
So.
In your time working at the help desk, is there a question that most made you roll your eyes? If not literally, figuratively, the question that you thought, really? Are you really asking me that?
There's so many examples. But, I mean, I've been asked, how do I turn this on, to how to even, because up there, similar to here, we have students of all kinds, whether they're fresh out of high school or, they've worked in a factory for 40 years and now they're coming back to take classes. And so I've taught people how to use a mouse before, how to type on a keyboard, just how to go into the address bar in a web browser and type in mail dots. I've lost the code or the address myself, but mail.whatever.com to get to the webmail. Just something that, I do every day, take for granted, but some people just have never done it before, and they need help with things. I'm just like, really?
It must make you realize that sometimes we assume a lot, and I suppose that helped you with your teaching life too. That help desk experience where you realize through it sounds like through your work at the help desk that not everybody is to the same level when it comes to computer usage. Have you then found that helps, that perspective helps as a teacher?
Yes, just in the past, couple class days so far, I spent a lot of effort and time, trying to figure out where everybody's at. A delicate balance of making sure the students that maybe they've done a few things in their personal life or whatnot to be a step ahead when they come to class, or whatever the case may be, make sure that they're not bored while I don't lose the people that are lost. And so it can be a delicate balance sometimes, but I try to make sure my teachings can reach everybody. And so so definitely working at the help desk, seeing different needs, and sometimes people, you go try to help them and you don't realize that they don't really actually need help. They've already figured it out, and so it's not good to assume, regardless of age, regardless of anything. I've had students that are 60, 70 years old outdo students right out of high school. You would think in the technology world that the young kids that grew up with it, or at least grew up with a more modern version of it, would know more, but it's not always the case.
I think that's very encouraging for some of our students who we may consider as older students to say sometimes you may be excelling even in computer type things. Sometimes I think they might be behind.
So, to give another random example, in my my computer business world, where I help people with different various tech needs, I had an old man who had this Dell laptop, and he was editing videos for his church, and he needed help with one and got my name from somebody, and so he stopped by my shop, and I helped him out with it. Ended up needing to use my Mac to fix up the video file he was working with. And he was so impressed by that, he went out, and apparently he's an old guy with a lot of money. He went out the next day and bought a brand new top-of-the-line MacBook Pro. Wow. And then 2 weeks later, he's just coming back to me saying like, hey, I'm doing this, and I realized, wait a minute, you're doing stuff that, you must either A, be spending a ton of time, or B, found it really intuitive, because he was editing videos better than some of my students would have. Wow. And he had to be in his 70s. And so it just goes to show you it doesn't matter. It's more about motivation than it is about age or your background or anything. So,
when we talked during your interview, you said that you wanted to bring practical application into the classroom with your computer science classes. Could you give us some examples of some of the ideas you have to make that happen in your class?
Yes. Like I said, I've been in a lot of different environments, working with a lot of different technology, with a lot of different people. Anywhere from preschoolers to business leaders that have been in their business for decades, and so being able to take those experiences, and whenever I create my assignments, create my content, making sure that those mesh and align. That way, what they're learning in the classroom could easily be adapted to when they actually get a job and go out in the workforce, and when their boss says, "Hey, guess what? Try to do this." And I'm hoping what I bring into the classroom can prepare my students to just be able to do it. Because as we know, sometimes the boss is like, "Yeah, you should be able to do that, right?" And the answer is always yes, whether you can or not, and then you figure it out after he leaves the room. So,
Right.
but
And you talked about some apps also that you wanted to help the students maybe create some apps.
yeah, I mean, we are the computer science department. We part of the program is just software development, coding, and really, nowadays there's some key areas that everybody wants a mobile app. Whether it's a small business, a giant bank, everybody wants a mobile app, and so of course a giant bank has a ton of resources to toss out to do whatever they need to do with the app, but a small business may not have that. So I do have some random ideas on stuff like that, but I think it'd be intriguing to prepare our students to be able to develop different things, whether it's a desktop application, a mobile app, or just anywhere in between. So
I think that's exciting, and I think that would probably resonate with the students.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, because every student has a smartphone in their pocket, and so it's something they can hold in their hand. Like, even though they all have laptops too, typically, it's not quite the same. For whatever reason, the smartphone, being able to make that app and hold it in your hand like that is something that people tend to find intriguing. So
Right. So you've told us a lot about how you came to computer science. I have got to ask, how did you come to teach cooking classes?
really, it's just more about I like to learn new things. I like to be creative regardless of what I'm doing, and I just like to be capable, I suppose. Like I do, but unless it's my transmission, I do all my own car work, change my oil brakes, spark plugs. And so it's just something I like to fix things and or create things, like creating different food recipes. I've got several waffle recipes that are very good. So but it's just something. It's the way my brain has always been. I just like to I like to tear apart and learn and discover, and that's any part of my life, not just computer science.
So I have to follow up with the question. So do you cook at home?
Yeah, I am the cook at home.
You were the cook at home.
Yeah. That's great.
That's a good deal.
So.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
That's a hard one. I mean, it's kind of novelty / trivial, but waffles, because I found ways to make anything into a waffle. And so that's always a fun thing to do, especially if I get asked to cook for something, or or if I'm making breakfast for a group or whatnot. And I like to sometimes do it live, so that way people can customize their waffles, on the fly. So yes, waffles are a random thing that I like to be creative with.
Well, I can see a carry-in breakfast in our future, and we'll have you as a
gonna
waffle
say,
chef.
I was thinking, I don't think that's trivial at all. I love waffles.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, thank you, Heath, for taking time to come and talk to us and share your expertise. I know that you'll be doing great things with our students.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have new faculty come in and bring new energy and new ideas.
Yes.
And I'm really kind of curious about his waffles.
I am too, and one of the things I love about the show is when we bring people on, whether they're alums or students or faculty, we always get to learn something really surprising, perhaps.
Right,
There's always that element of, wow, I had no idea you did this.
That's the first I knew he taught cooking classes, and I didn't know he was a waffle chef.
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna
thought
have
that's
a waffle
great.
breakfast. I see it.
I think that would be wonderful, and I have to say my waffle maker just died a couple of weeks ago, so I'm thinking not only should I get a new waffle maker, but maybe Heath will share one or two of his recipes.
There you go. We also have another new faculty member with us, and I'll say a new faculty member, but maybe a returning faculty member, and that's Brenda Sharp. Welcome, Brenda.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
And you are a CPA, so I'd like
I
for
am.
you to share with our listeners a little bit about your past and what you did in the business world and how you came back to Rio.
I graduated from Rio. I did my bachelor's degree here in accounting, and then I was offered a scholarship at OU to get my master's degree. And after getting my master's there, I went to work for a CPA firm and took the exam, and I am a certified public accountant. I also was teaching as an adjunct both here and at Ohio University for a while. And unfortunately, as things got busier at the CPA firm, something had to go, and it couldn't be the job that paid the bills. So unfortunately, I had to give up teaching as an adjunct, and I really missed that. To me, there is nothing quite like seeing that light come on when you have a student that has really struggled with a concept, and all of a sudden you just see their face and you know that now they've got it. To me, that's one of the most rewarding things that you could possibly do. So after a little over 20 years as a CPA, I was a tax accountant, and I just kind of burnt out on the long hours of tax season, and I had reached a point in my life where the finances wasn't as big of an issue. And I was having lunch with one of my best friends, and I was complaining that I was totally burnt out and I needed a break and I needed less hours. And she said, I know the perfect solution. She said, take my job. She had just given her notice at Rio the day before. But we got together and had lunch. So I applied for her job, and she went on to be the director of a library, and I'm business faculty. So total switch.
That is, and I just want to point out, it's diverging a little bit away, but I think that story really illustrates the importance of networking that we're always telling our students. Networking helped you discover this way to get back to one of your passions.
Exactly. And so now I get to be all excited about getting up and going to work again. Instead of, I have to get up and go to work.
Well, that's good. It's always good to be excited about coming to work.
It's always good to be excited about it. And I was excited about accounting that way at one point. But like I said, 20 years of tax season and working 6-7 days a week, and it gets old after a while.
Well, March and April probably, well, at least the beginning of April might be a little less stressful now than it had been. So later in April might be a little more stressful.
I'm sure you put in some late nights.
Yes, I did. I put in late nights, and one of the ways that you know it's time for a change is when one of your grandchildren says, I really want to come and stay with you, but you have to work. You always have to work.
Oh.
And then you think, I don't have any balance in my life. Is that how you want your family to think of you, as being the person who buys them cool gifts, but is never there because you're always working?
Right. It sounds like one of the things you will definitely be bringing to your classroom for your students is the importance of work-life balance, which I know is something that we often talk about. I think anybody who's in a professional field talks about. I personally can say for myself, I'm not as good at as I would like. So it sounds like your perspective will be very meaningful as you go through with teaching students.
True.
So you've had your first week.
Yeah.
Partially in.
First, yes, 3 days.
3 days.
3 days in.
So how has it gone so far?
Good.
Good.
I'm learning to roll with the punches and not let a technical glitch. I went down to teach in 114 Monday. Had my PowerPoint presentation already on my flash drive, and I went down and the projector didn't work. And so I started fiddling, and no one thought to put batteries in the remote, so you couldn't turn on the projector.
That's an easy fix, though.
It was an easy fix, and it worked fine today. But, you know, it's you just have to, always have to learn your way around a new place. And I told my students, one of the most important things that they can learn is right off the bat, you make friends with the secretary.
That's right.
Because they
Good
always
advice.
know everything.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And they always know where the batteries are and where to find chalk. And they always know these things. So that's always the first step, is you make friends with the secretary.
Yeah. Good advice.
Definitely, as a faculty member, you have to be flexible, too.
Yeah.
My husband is a computer scientist and a nurse, so he always told me when I would go to do a presentation, he said, you have to have 4 backups. One major way to present, and 3 backups. And I said, that seems a little like overkill. And that has really saved me a couple of times, because plan A didn't work, plan B didn't work, plan C didn't work, and thank goodness I had plan D.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're really looking forward to teaching that you're just really excited to talk about with your students this semester?
This semester is really kind of interesting, because I'm teaching business law, 3 sections of business law. And I find that very interesting. And of course, as a CPA, there's not much legal advice that you can give your clients, because that's called practicing law without a license. And so even though I know the field, it's something I haven't been permitted to discuss much. And so this is giving me a chance to kind of delve back in and really bring that back. Next semester, I'm really excited that instead of doing taxes 70 hours a week, I will get to work with students doing taxes.
That's right.
The VITA program.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've heard VITA and VITA. I still don't know which is correct.
I don't either. It's kind of like if you're from Gallia County, Patriot is right down the road. And if you're from anywhere else, Patriot is right down the road.
Maybe we should all just start calling it VITA program.
There you go. So could you explain a little bit about the program and what it is?
It is the volunteer income tax assistance, and the IRS will partner with different entities, in this case with the university, to provide books, training, to people who are willing to volunteer their time to prepare taxes for the elderly, for the low income. So for low income families that need to take advantage of the earned income credit, or for the elderly that maybe they have a pension, so they still need to file even though they may or may not actually owe any tax. But they don't really, it's not a big deal to them, and they don't want to pay, or in some cases don't have the resources to pay to go and have someone prepare it. And so the students get experience, and they get to offer a great service to the community.
That was very popular last year, I know. I know our students did several tax returns.
I participated in it as a student when I was here, and it was a great learning experience, because back then, when they set up the program at the beginning of the semester, they would send us a book with forms that you got to copy, and then take a pencil and prepare. So it was a great learning tool, though, to actually have to do them with a pencil, a calculator, and a piece of paper. So it was a great learning tool. Then when I was teaching here as an adjunct, I supervised the program for a couple of years. And so this is actually my 3rd trip around. So
I want to circle back to business law for just a minute. As a dean, I have the privilege of going in to evaluate different classes. And one of the classes that I was to go in and evaluate was business law. And I said, oh, that's going to be so boring. How will I sit there for 50 minutes or even maybe an hour and listen to business law? And I was so engaged in what was going on in that class that the faculty member was saying, well, our time's just about up. And I looked at my watch, I thought, no way. So really, there's some fascinating cases that you can present in that class.
And that's always an interesting part of it. If instead of just doing a lecture, you can pull in some cases. Last night, I taught at the Meg's campus. And so, and their class is longer, and attention span gets too short. When you have them for such a long block of time, if you just try to lecture, they've totally shut down. And so partway through the class, I picked some students and said, okay, you are working for a large pharmaceutical company, and you've invested billions of dollars in research, and you have came out with what promises to be the most effective painkiller ever. But you know it's highly addictive. Are you going to market that drug? Or are you going to choose to lose the money invested in research and not move forward with it? And we had some very interesting discussion. They had to give their plan of what they were going to do. And then I got to tell him that that really was the case with OxyContin when it came to the market.
It was.
They knew it was addictive.
The book Dreamland discusses that.
But they chose to keep it to themselves and not disclose that. And now we have people that get severely addicted. And it was very costly for them too, for the company and for the 3 individuals that were aware of the addictive qualities. It cost them millions of dollars, and I think they were banned for 15 years.
Wow.
From the pharmaceuticals. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us and for coming and spending time with us on Voice of Rio Grande.
Yes,
I think
thank
we're
you.
just
Thank
about
you.
out of time.
It was so fascinating that just what you said, I really enjoyed today's guests, and now time is up.
Well, join us next time for another episode of Voice of Rio Grande.